click of a Morse code key could mean life or death.
Listen, beneath the marches, the propaganda, and the jamming, there is another sound. A sound of the night. It is the sound of static. An ocean of noise, vast and cold and deep. But listen closer. There, a signal. Faint, fragile, a tiny pulse in the absolute darkness of occupied Europe. This signal is a lifeline, is as a whisper of defiance, a thread of hope transmitted by men and women of extraordinary courage. They were the invisible armies, the ghosts in the machine, known as the radio operatives. These are the untold stories of the secret radio resistance, the silent signals that pierced the static and helped win the war. By 1941, the shadow of the Third Reich had fallen across the continent. From the fjords of Norway to the shores of Greece, millions lived under the suffocating silence of occupation. To speak out was to be arrested. To resist was to be executed. The resistance was scattered, leaderless, and blind. In London, a new clandestine organization was formed, the Special Operations Executive, or SOE. Their mission, in the words of Winston Churchill, was to set Europe ablaze. But they didn't need soldiers. Not at first. They needed something quieter. They needed listeners and talkers. They recruited from the everyday. They sought out those who were bilingual, those who could blend in, and those who possessed a rare, cold courage. They looked for people with quick minds and steady hands. They were poets, engineers, journalists, and housewives. They were the perfect spies, because they were the last people you would ever suspect. Their weapon was not a gun. It was a box. Often a suitcase. Inside was the Bicep Mark II radio set, a marvel of miniature technology for its time, but to us it would seem impossibly heavy and cumbersome. It was their burden and their only connection to the outside world. They were nicknamed the pianists because their instrument was the Morse key. They had to be fast, fluent, and flawless. A single mistake, a moment of hesitation, could corrupt the entire message. A sloppy fist, as they called the operator's unique tapping style, could give them away. And then there was the code. The messages were encrypted using a system called a one-time pad. A sheet of paper printed with random keys, used only once and then destroyed. It was, theoretically, unbreakable, but it was also agonizingly slow. Every letter, every number had to be encoded by hand before a single signal was ever sent. The life of a radio operative was a life of absolute isolation. They moved from safe house to safe house, hiding in attics, barns, and cellars. They were alone, completely, terribly alone. Their only companions were the static and the fear. Because they were not just transmitting, they were being hunted. The Germans had the Funkenwehr, a counterintelligence unit dedicated to finding them. They used sophisticated direction-finding equipment, the hands that prowled the streets like sharks. Fox hunting, they called it. The operatives lived by a single terrifying rule, the 20-minute rule. They believed that if they transmitted from one location for more than 20 minutes, the hunter vans would have enough time to triangulate their position, get in, send a message, and get out. 20 minutes was the theory. Sometimes it was less. Sometimes
Gestapo was already waiting. The average life expectancy of a radio operative in occupied France was just 6 months. Many didn't even last 6 weeks. Their names are mostly lost to history, but some we must remember. Her name was Noor Inayat Khan. She was not a soldier. She was a poet, a musician, a writer of children's stories. She was a Sufi, a pacifist who believed in non-violence. In 1943, she was flown into occupied France under the codename Madeleine. She was the first female radio operator sent by the SOE into the country. She arrived just as her entire spy network was collapsing. Arrests were happening everywhere. Gestapo was closing in. London ordered her to return. They told her it was too dangerous. But Noor refused. She knew that without her, all communication between London and the resistance in Paris would be severed. So she stayed. For 3 more months, she was the only link. She ran all over Paris, dragging her 28-pound radio from safe house to safe house. The Germans knew she was out there. They could hear her signals. They called her the Phantom. She transmitted again and again, dodging capture by minute. She did the work of 6 operators, all alone. In October, she was betrayed, captured by the Gestapo. For 10 months, they tortured her. They tried to break her, to get her codes, to make her talk. Noor Inayat Khan never told them a single thing. Not her name, not her mission, not one secret. In September 1944, she was transferred to Dachau concentration camp. The next morning, she was executed. Her final word, whispered to the darkness, was liberty, freedom. She was 30 years old. But what did their sacrifice achieve? What did these faint signals actually do? They were everything. A coded message from an attic in Lyon would become a parachute drop of weapons and ammunition in a field outside the city. A pianist was the difference between the resistance that fought with pamphlets and one that fought with machine guns. A message from Normandy detailing the movements of a panzer division would be relayed to London and then to the bombers. A message for a saboteur confirming a bridge was wired with explosives would coordinate a region-wide operation. If we're D-Day, the French resistance orchestrated by these radio signals launched Plan Vert, Plan Blue, and Plan Violet. They sabotaged over 900 railway lines. They cut communications. They delayed German reinforcements, crucial in those first frantic hours of the invasion. And sometimes the signal was just hope. The BBC would broadcast personal messages over the public airwaves. The rabbit is in the garden. Jean has a long mustache. Nonsense phrases to listening world, but a direct order or word of comfort to a single operative hiding and listening in the dark. Today the war is over. The airwaves are clear, but the static remains. It is the static of history, of stories forgotten or deliberately silenced. Thousands of radio operatives served the Allied cause. Many were captured, many were executed, many simply vanished. We live in a world of constant noise, a million voices all shouting to be heard. It is so easy to forget that once the most important words in the world were not shouted. They were tapped. They were the pianists, the phantoms, the silent sings. They took the noise, the static, and that pierced it with a message of defiance. They proved that sometimes a single quiet whisper in the darkness can be louder and more powerful than an entire army. And that is their story.